This is a humble request to all our distinguished guests who are already inside the hall to kindly take their seats. A humble request to all our distinguished guests to kindly take their seats. We've just got the information that our chief guest for this grand event, the Sagarmatha Sambaad 2025, Right Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal, Mr. K.P. Sharma Oli, is on his way. So requesting all our distinguished dignitaries inside this hall to kindly take their seats. Also a humble request to please keep your mobile phones on silent mode. A humble request to all our distinguished guests to please keep their mobile phones on silent mode. हल भित्र रहनुभएका हाम्रा सम्पूर्ण अतिथि महानुभावहरूलाई यथास्थानमा आसन ग्रहण गरिदिनुहुनका लागि हामी हार्दिक अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छौं। यहाँहरू सम्पूर्णलाई यथास्थानमा आसन ग्रहण गरिदिनुहुनका लागि हार्दिक अनुरोध र सँगसँगै आफ्नो मोबाइल फोन कृपया साइलेन्ट मोडमा राखिदिनका लागि पनि हामी विनम्र अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छौं। यहाँहरू सम्पूर्णलाई सगरमाथा संवादमा हामी हार्दिक स्वागत गर्दछौं र हल भित्र रहनुभएका सम्पूर्ण अतिथि महानुभावहरूलाई पनि पुनः एकपटक यथास्थानमा आसन ग्रहण गरिदिनुहुनका लागि हामी हार्दिक अनुरोध गर्दछौं। हाम्रा भलन्टियर्स र लिएजन अफिसर्सहरूलाई हाम्रा अतिथिज्यूहरूलाई पनि उहाँको स्थान देखाइदिनुहुनका लागि पनि हामी हार्दिक अनुरोध गर्दछौं। Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dignitaries will be starting shortly. guests, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very good morning. My name is Mandira Maharshan and I will be the Master of Ceremony for the opening session of Sagarmatha Sambaad. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to all the dignitaries and guests in this August gathering of the Sagarmatha Sambaad. The Sagarmatha Sambaad, a platform for global dialogue, is named after the tallest mountain on the earth. It is a flagship initiative of the government of Nepal to work with all national and international stakeholders on pressing issues of common interest and global importance. As outlined in program, the theme of the Sagarmatha Sambaad 2025 is climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. The theme is chosen with an objective of sharing views, building global solidarity, fostering common understanding, and inspiring collective action on these issues. Needless to say, that climate change has affected all of us indiscriminately. Collaborative effort across borders and amongst humanity, hence, is an imperative for all. We all have a common interest for promoting a healthy planet for the current and the future generations of humans, animals, vegetations, and organisms alike. This common understanding will contribute to producing a tenable future that is clean, green, and resilient. The final and detailed program has already been shared with all these distinguished guests. It is also available on the Sagarmatha Sambaad website, ladies and gentlemen. The opening ceremony will soon start now, and I would like to once again request all distinguished guests and delegates to keep your mobile phones in silent mode, please. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to announce the arrival of Right Honorable Prime Minister in this hall. As the formal opening of the Sambad commences with the playing of National Anthem of Nepal, I would like to request every distinguished guest in the hall to rise. Thank you. Please kindly be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to unveil the Sagarmatha Sambaad banner. I have the honor to humbly request the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the Chair of Steering Committee of Sagarmatha Sambaad 2025 to unveil the Sagarmatha Sambaad banner. Also, I would like to request the volunteers for the needful assistance. Right Honorable Prime Minister, please do the honors.
Thank you. I sincerely express our profound gratitude to the Right Honorable Prime Minister for unveiling the banner of Sagarmatha Sambaad. It is truly a momentous occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Let us take a couple of minutes to watch the opening video of Sagarmatha Sambaad 2025. I kindly request the technical team to please play the video. Thank you.
Nepal, home to the Himalayas, the sacred birthplace of Gautam Buddha, a timeless source of wisdom for the world. Here stands Sagarmatha, Mount Everest, the pinnacle of the earth, a symbol of hope, perseverance, and strength. For centuries, this land has believed in the power of dialogue. Today, as humanity faces unprecedented challenges,
the land that carries a mantle of ancient practice of finding solutions through dialogue and risk.
this legacy feels more important than ever. The world needs hope, action, resilience, and above all, the world needs dialogue. It is with this vision that we present Sagarmatha Sambaad, Nepal's permanent global dialogue platform.
The world is at a watershed moment in history. Both people and planet stand on the brink of climate catastrophe.
The rooftops of the world are caving in.
My own country, Nepal, is particularly hard.
Record temperatures mean record glacier melt.
We stand as one of the most vulnerable nations in climate change and are ranked as the 20th most disaster-prone country in the world.
It is with the hope for climate justice that Nepal attaches great importance to the international processes on climate change.
Stop the madness. The world cannot wait.
Climate crisis is the number one threat now. Just look around. Are there mountains, receding glaciers, loss of biodiversity, erratic weather patterns, and rising sea level? These signs are unmistakable.
The theme of this first edition is climate change, mountain, and the future of humanity. This theme arises not just from our experience in the mountains today, but also from what we believe in and what we dream of for our shared planet.
विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तनको विषयमा नेपालको योगदान शून्य जस्तै रहे पनि यस्ता जलवायुजन्य विपद तथा तापक्रम वृद्धिले नेपालको हिमाल र सुन्दरतामा निकै गहिरो आघात परिरहेको छ.
This is a forum where diverse voices come together to forge a future that is not only sustainable but also fair and equitable for all, from the islands to the islands, and from the mountain tops to the ocean shores.
Let Sagarmatha Sambaad be a dialogue for solutions, for actions and for change.
The dialogue will host leaders, experts and stakeholders and citizens from every corner of the globe. The Sambad is for everyone, for you and for me.
Let us join together to chart the path of well-being of our people and the planet.
So let the mountains meet minds, let dialogue become action. Let's reshape policies not just with urgency but with equity, compassion and long-term vision.
Let's make Sagarmatha Sambaad a forum of solutions, a fountain of hope and a force for the future. Let's build prosperous and a sustainable future for all.
Thank you all the distinguished guests for your kind attention. I now have the honor to request the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Arzu Ranadeuba, to deliver welcome remarks. Thank you.
Honorable, Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable distinguished guests, Honorable Deputy Prime Ministers, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, friends, Namaste and good morning. It is a great privilege and honor for me to extend a welcome to you all to the opening session of the inaugural edition of the Sagarmatha Sambaad. I extend a special welcome to the distinguished dignitaries and guests who have traveled from various countries to attend this historic event. On behalf of the Government of Nepal, please accept my sincere thanks and appreciation to you for lending your valuable support to Nepal's signature initiative at fostering dialogue among nations. Sagarmatha Sambaad is inspired by the motto of Bade Bade Jayate Tattabodh. This ancient maxim enjoins us to seek truth in a spirit of debate and dialogue, and through the exchange of differing ideas and points of view. The Sambad provides an occasion for reflection and introspection and aims to encourage meaningful conversations on matters that matter to all of us, from the mountains to the seas and from the global north to the global south. The theme of the Sagarmatha Sambaad this year is climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. As a land of delicate mountain ecosystems, Nepal is already facing the full force of climate change. As conscientious custodians of our rivers, forests, and mountains, we contribute more than our due share to the health of the planet. However, we are forced to face a heavy and disproportionate burden of the negative impacts of climate change. The absence of honest dialogue and impactful action not only heightens the risk on the environment in Nepal and elsewhere, but also puts the future of humanity itself at great peril. This is a grave injustice and must be addressed promptly, lest it becomes too late. Over the next 3 days, we will ask ourselves how best to tackle the existential threat of climate crisis, restore the health of the planet, and ensure the well-being of the people who live in it. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, mountains are humanity's shared global resources. They store and supply fresh water, act as natural carbon sinks, and are home to breathtaking biodiversity and abundant natural resources. They offer an array of sustainable climate solutions in the form of reforestation, watershed protection, and ecotourism. The Himalayas in particular are integral to Earth's natural cooling system as they serve as a natural climate stabilizer. There are organic links and complementarities between mountains and oceans. A climate distress in the mountains finds a parallel echo in the sea coast. The fates of the two are closely intertwined. For the people of Nepal, the Himalayas are not only an embodiment of an ancient culture and heritage, but are also a central pillar of our national pride and identity. The tragedy is that the Himalayas are facing an unprecedented stress test in real time today, exposing not only the fragile nature of our mountain ecosystems, but also glaring evidence of the lack of meaningful global climate action. As a mountainous country with high disaster risk vulnerability, Nepal faces a stark predicament. Nepal has experienced a series of severe weather events in the recent past with devastating impacts on people and their livelihoods. Floods and glacial lake outbursts have caused large-scale destruction and damage, and droughts, water scarcity, and forest fires have brought untold suffering to the people across the country. We are the trustees of a planet. We were fortunate to inherit whole and healthy from our forebearers. We must act now to make sure that we pass it on to our future generations just as green, beautiful, and robust as we received from them. Excellencies, dear friends, the Himalayas are shouldering the heaviest weight of climate-induced disruption today. Our glaciers, the fragile yet timeless symbols of a healthy planet, are retreating at an alarming pace. What took millennia to form is melting away in silence just in front of our eyes. Mountain communities everywhere are especially vulnerable as they depend on nature for their daily lives. Climate-induced disasters are shaking the very foundations of their existence and livelihoods. Yet, there are incredible examples of many local communities fighting strenuously against climate change. Women, indigenous people, youth and marginalized groups, especially in mountain regions, are the gentle caretakers of our natural world. They fight on the home ground and they know how to fight a long fight. Recognizing and giving value to their local knowledge and lived experience is critical to building adaptive and sustainable communities, as is empowering them with resources and opportunities for finding sustainable solutions to an existential crisis. This cannot happen without concomitant cooperation among governments, corporations, and civil society at the international level. Excellencies, dear friends, the Atharva Veda proclaims, Mata Bhumi Putro Ham Prithviya. The earth is my mother and I am a child. Inspired by this ancient maxim, Nepal remains deeply committed to tackling climate change by aligning itself with international efforts aimed at combating climate change. As per our commitment to the Paris Agreement, we are working towards lowering emissions, exploring local climate solutions, and nurturing a sustainable and resilient earth. Nepal has committed to achieving the target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. Hydropower, a clean form of energy, has remained Nepal's largest source of electricity. Community forestry, a natural resource management program pioneered by Nepal, has not only helped Nepal enlarge its forest cover significantly, but has also emerged as a model of participatory conservation the world over. We have embraced initiatives like the National Adaptation Program of Action, NAPA, and the Local Adaptation Plans for Action, LAPA. These empower local communities to design solutions that fit their unique needs and realities. Nevertheless, the cascading impacts of global warming and climate change far exceed our capacity and resources to mitigate them. We call for predictable and adequate climate finance, as we require greater resources to implement our national and local adaptation plans. Climate change is a global crisis transcending national boundaries. Nothing less than a global alliance based on justice and solidarity can hope to make a dent on the existential crisis that climate change brings in its wake. Thus, we call for a sufficient and effective loss and damage fund that can be easily accessed by countries in crisis. Nepal has therefore been consistently at the forefront of advocating for climate justice in international forums and multilateral institutions. It is essential that the world acknowledges the vulnerabilities of countries like Nepal and supports targeted mitigation and adaptation strategies through the provision of climate finance, adaptation support, and technology transfer. Excellencies, dear friends, as we engage in dialogue, I kindly invite you to reflect on how we can connect mountains to oceans, advance the green economy, and uphold climate justice for every person. I also hope that this forum will be an opportunity to contemplate on the linkages between climate change and regional and international peace, security, and stability, as well as the impacts of climate change on migration, food security, humanitarian crisis, and disaster risks. I hope this dialogue will help spark fresh ideas, foster cooperation, and mobilize greater political will in combating the specter of climate change and the existential threat to the future of humanity. I call upon all dignitaries and participants to walk with us in making this Sambad a great success. I once again extend a warm welcome to all of you to the first edition of the Sagarmatha Sambaad. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Foreign Minister, for the warm welcome remarks and also shedding light upon the program and objectives of Sagarmatha Sambaad. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the honor to call upon this stage His Excellency Mr. Mukhtar Babayev, COP29 President and representative of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan on climate issues for the keynote speech. Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to join you all for the opportunity to address this critical issue of climate change, maintenance, and the future of humanity. I must express my deepest gratitude to the leadership of the government of Nepal and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Sharma Oli. And I must also thank the Honorable Foreign Minister, Dr. Arzu Rana Deuba, for efforts to gather us all together. Dear colleagues, people in many parts of the world often think of mountain communities as far away and isolated. They do not see how the issues that affect this distant place also affect them. But our understanding of the climate crisis is growing. We are now seeing how we are all connected. And we are recognizing the need for collective action. From the Andes to Alps, the 2 billion people rely on mountain water from glaciers for their day-to-day needs. Melting glaciers and ice sheets are causing sea levels to rise at alarming rates. This is a risk to 10% of the world's population that lives in coastal areas from South Asia to sub-Saharan Africa. It threatens the very existence of small island states in the Pacific and the Caribbean. And disruptions in mountain ecology have major social and even geopolitical consequences. In Kathmandu, we can see the pressure climate change puts on water infrastructure. As permafrost thaws, we see damage to roads and buildings in remote communities. And in the states around the Himalayas, we see how climate change can upset the sensitive balance between powers. Melting glaciers also cause a dangerous positive feedback loop. As ice melts, less light is reflected, so more heat is absorbed and more ice melts. We need everyone to understand the urgency of this problem and work together to address them. We need to prevent these changes where possible, and we need to adapt to them where needed. In Azerbaijan and the Caucasus, we know these issues well. In only 7 years, we have lost almost 20% of our glaciers. They could disappear totally by 2050. Our river levels are already falling. We have less water for our people and our agriculture. This is a real risk to human health and economic development. It could undermine the progress that we have achieved in recent decades. Ladies and gentlemen, with the guidance and support of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Ilham Aliyev, undertook the responsibility to bringing the world to Baku for COP29. This is because the President understood that we have a moral duty and a clear interest to act. We knew that for global challenges, we need global action. The multilateral system is not always perfect, but it has delivered many benefits, and it is essential for making progress. Within the COP process, mountains have been rising up the agenda. In the global stocktake at COP28 in Dubai, we encouraged integrated and multi-sectoral solutions to protect and restore mountain environments. We held an expert dialogue on mountains and climate change in June last year at the Bonn Climate Conference. And we are working to agree indicators on adaptation for mountain ecosystems under the global goal on adaptation. Azerbaijan was the first country from our region to host COP. We are also one of the few countries with mountain zones to ever hold the conference. We understood that we had the responsibility to represent these communities and to highlight the issues they face on the world stage. We knew that we had to deliver results. First, we wanted to enhance ambitions. We got over 70 countries to endorse the COP29 Declaration on Water for Climate Action. They resolved to promote partnership and dialogue, strengthen specific understanding, scientific understanding, and enhance water-related climate policies. And we launched the Baku Dialogue on Water for Climate Action to ensure COP-to-COP continuity and regional cooperation. This dialogue will develop actionable pathways for early warning systems, climate resilience, infrastructure, and scaling nature-based solutions, amongst other outcomes. We invite everyone to join the declaration and the dialogue. We will hold a preliminary meeting in Bonn this June before the first meeting of the dialogue platform at COP30 in Belém. We look forward to seeing you all there. Next, finance was at the center of the COP29 presidency's vision to enable action. We brought stakeholders together to mobilize money for mountain communities. We hosted the Asian Development Bank, the Green Climate Fund, governments, development partners, and the private sector to launch the Glaciers to Farms initiative. This project will mobilize up to $3.5 billion for investment in water, agriculture, and communities threatened by glacier melt and fragile mountain regions. We also got the Loss and Damage Fund up and running. The fund now has an executive director who can open an office, get a bank account, hire staff, and start approving projects. This will be a critical resource to support communities that face irreversible consequences from glacier melt. But we knew we had to go even further. Finance was at the heart of the negotiations in Baku. The COP29 presidency's top negotiating objective was a new climate finance goal to support the developing world for the next 10 years. It has never going to be easy. Under the UN, we had never set out to establish a goal like this. We had to bridge divides on the underlinked issues of structure, contributors, and quantum. And we saw a clear demand for strong qualitative elements that would help reshape the global financial architecture. It was a complex negotiation where nothing was agreed until everything was agreed. As anyone who has climbed Sagarmatha knows, the wind blows strongest on the top of the mountain. It would get tough as we entered the final stages, but we were determined to reach our objective. When a target of $250 billion was initially suggested, we were clear that we needed to go further. We needed a goal that was fair and ambitious. We refused to close a conference. We held everyone back from leaving. And in very final moments, we landed a deal on the COP29 Baku finance goal. This tripled the previous goal with a pledge to mobilize at least $300 billion per year to the developing world by 2035. This is the largest ever financial goal to come from the UN process, turning billions to trillions. It will send a strong signal to the financial markets, provide greater certainty for long-term planning, help build trust and momentum for collective action, and set a benchmark to hold us all to account. But most critically, it will fund action. It will catalyze finance for more clean energy projects. This will reduce emissions to help prevent the worst effects of climate change on mountainous regions. It will mobilize public money for climate-resilient infrastructure. And it will help to support communities that face irreversible loss and damage. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we understand that the goal was not everything for everyone. The COP29 presidency pushed for the highest possible level of ambition. But we were realistic that the public sector could not deliver the full scope of the developing world's needs. That's why we included for call of all actors to step up, and countries tasked the Azerbaijani and Brazilian COP presidencies to set out the Baku to Belém roadmap for how we could reach $1.3 trillion a year by 2035. We must now focus on implementation. The COP29 presidency will remain active to ensure that donors deliver their promises. We will hold governments to account to make sure that they mobilize the $300 billion they pledged in Baku. We are calling on them to make early progress on past promises. This means doubling adaptation funding by the end of the year compared to 2019 levels. And it means tripling the outflows from the official UN climate funds by 2030. For example, this includes more resources for the Green Climate Fund that supported the Glaciers to Farms initiative at COP29. Next is a critical year to enhance ambition in national climate plans. We need to deliver the plans for how we will reduce emissions, known as a nationally determined contributions. We want everyone to produce national adaptation plans for how we will prepare for the consequences of climate change. And as we set out at the COP29 Declaration of Water for Climate Action, we encourage everyone to integrate water into these plans and climate policies. As a developing country, Azerbaijan understands how challenging it can be to develop these plans. We have worked with the UN Secretary General and the whole UN system to make sure that support is available for everyone who needs it. We hope that countries will take advantage of it. We also want to remind everyone of the benefits of producing these plans, because these plans can serve as green lights for green investment, setting targets and timelines, highlighting priority sectors and industries, and demonstrating governments' commitment to action will send strong signals. These signals will attract and guide investment from both international donors and the private sector. They can be a useful roadmap for how we deploy the $300 billion a year that was pledged in Baku. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world full of distractions and competing priorities, we need to maintain focus and momentum. Azerbaijan is committed to playing its role to keep climate action high on the international agenda. We have seen encouraging signs from many committed climate actors, but we have also seen attention falling amongst others. So we need to keep up the work. The UN General Assembly designated 2025 as the International Year of Glaciers Preservation to raise awareness. We are deeply grateful to the government of Nepal for contributing to this mission by organizing today's gathering. These efforts remind us all of the communities that we have a responsibility to serve and protect. Dear colleagues, when we brought everyone to Baku for COP29, we called on them to act under the slogan of solidarity. This is because we understood that climate change affects everyone. No country can insulate itself from its impacts. And everyone has a responsibility to act. We need to think of the hundreds of millions of people in mountain communities. We need to think of the billions of people who are affected by what happens in them. And once again, we need to move forward in a solidarity for a green world. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your keynote speech highlighting the key issues of common interest and concern. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now have the honor to invite His Excellency Shri Bhupender Yadav, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of the Government of India, for this statement. Thank you.
Esteemed Right, Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal, Shri K.P. Sharma Oli ji, Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs of Nepal, Dr. Arju Rana Devva ji, Mr. Shio Jie, Vice Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People Congress of China, Mr. Mukhtar, Co-President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste. It is a profound honor for me to stand before this august gathering in the historic city of Kathmandu to represent India at this landmark first Sagarmatha Sambaad. I extend my deepest gratitude to the government of Nepal for its visionary initiative in convening this critical dialogue. The very name, Sagarmatha, the head of the sky, evokes a sense of majesty and indeed the immense responsibility we gather to address. The Sambad, dedicated to the passing theme of climate change, mountains and the future of humanity, could not be merely timely nor its location more fitting. Excellencies, the science is clear. Our mountains are sounding the alarm. As a consequence of a global warming due to human activity, glaciers are retreating, threatening the future of water security for population downstream. The unique and fragile biodiversity of these high-altitude ecosystem is under severe stress. The livelihood and ancient culture of mountain communities are threatened, despite contributing the least of the climate crisis. The Himalayas bear a significant part of the burden of the environmental crisis. We, in India, with our significant Himalayan territory, witness these impacts firsthand. We share the concern of the mountain states and their peoples. Our environmental futures are instinctively linked, but our futures are also dependent on the collective action of all nations in mitigating greenhouse gas emission in keeping with the principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. South Asia has been responsible for only 4% of global cumulative carbon dioxide emission until 2020, despite being home to almost 25% of the global population. Ladies and gentlemen, the global carbon budget is rapidly being exhausted, with the developed nations continuing to disproportionately grab the merged remaining carbon budget. Their commitment to providing climate finance, technology transfer, and capacity building have been profoundly neglected, intensifying the climate crisis for which they bear far greater responsibility. This Sambad, therefore, is not just a forum for discussion. It is a call for collective, concrete action. It is also an opportunity to pool our wisdom and scientific expertise, share our experiences, and forge robust partnership to safeguard these critical ecosystems and the communities they support. India, under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, is deeply committed to contributing to climate action with the urgency it demands, despite our minimal role for the crisis it faces. Our nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement and our National Action Plan on Climate, we are testament to our resolve. So are the ambitious target for renewable energy, aiming for 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel based installed electricity generation capacity by 2030. Our leadership in the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure and our long-term goal of reaching net zero by 2070 are all testaments to our resolve. Based on the principle of equity, climate justice, and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, we are walking the talk on climate action, integrating sustainability into the very fabric of our development paradigm, guided by Mission Life, Lifestyle for Environment. Excellencies, our Honorable Prime Minister, on 5th June 2024, on the occasion of World Environment Day, launched the campaign Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, Plant for Mother, under which citizens are encouraged to plant a sapling as mark of love, respect and honor for their mother. The campaign involves taking a pledge to protect trees, and 1.42 billion saplings have been planted, including 72.1 million trees in the Indian Himalayan region. Specifically, for our Himalayan region, we are implementing a dedicated national mission focused on sustaining the Himalayan ecosystem, promoting climate-resilient agriculture, and enhancing disaster preparedness. We understand that solution for mountain region must be context-specific, integrating indigenous knowledge with cutting-edge science and technology. Further, India is also developing its first national adaptation plan, which aims to develop a comprehensive and inclusive roadmap that aligns with sustainable development goals and ensures climate resilience for all sectors and regions, including the Himalayan region. Members of the August gathering, at the 13th COP to the Convention of Migratory Species in February 2020, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji highlighted the importance of Project Snow Leopard, which was launched to protect the snow leopard and its habitat in the upper Himalayas. On those lines, today, I am happy to share with you all that we have conducted India's first comprehensive snow leopard population assessment. The comprehensive assessment, which was conducted between 2019 and 2023, indicated a total of 718 snow leopards across India, accounting for approximately 10 to 50% of the global population. Considering the importance of rich biodiversity values at high altitude and mountain landscape like Indo-Nepal, the transboundary conservation of big cats like a snow leopard, tiger, and leopard is vital. I encourage all Himalayan countries to spearhead the conservation of big cats, including snow leopards, under the aegis of International Big Cat Alliance, an international legal entity launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji to share conservation expertise, fund conservation initiatives, and create a repository of technical knowledge. Excellencies, the challenge before us are immense, but so is our collective capacity for innovation and collaboration. This Sambad must pave the way for enhanced scientific cooperation, strengthening research, collaboration, and monitoring catastrophic changes, hydrological cycle, and biodiversity. Second, building climate resilience. Investing in climate adaptation measures, early warning system of disasters like glacier, lake, outburst floods, and climate resilient infrastructure in mountain areas. Third, empowering mountain communities, ensuring that the welfare, needs, and aspiration of local communities are the heart of policy making and their benefit from green livelihoods and sustainable tourism. Their traditional knowledge is an invaluable resource. Fourth, providing green finance, making available adequate and predictable climate finance as per UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement for mountain nations to implement adaptation and mitigation strategies effectively. Next, recognizing mountain perspective, ensuring that the unique vulnerabilities and contributions of mountain ecosystem are suitably featured in the global climate negotiation and sustainable development agencies. India is committed to working closely with Nepal and the Himalayan nations as well as our global partners to translate the deliberation here into tangible outcome. We believe in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family, and this extends to our shared ecological heritage. I am confident that the rich discussion over next few days, graced by the presence of so many esteemed experts and leaders, will chart a clear path forwarding. Once again, I congratulate the government of Nepal for this excellent initiative. May our collective effort ensure the Sagarmatha and our sacred mountains continue to stand tall as beacons of hope, resilience, and a sustainable future for all. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for this statement on behalf of the Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, moving forward, may I also have the honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Xiao Jie, Vice Chairman of the Standing Committee of the 14th National People's Congress of the People's Republic of China for this statement. Thank you.
尊敬的利奥总理，尊敬的各位嘉宾，女士们、先生们、朋友们，大家好！很高兴和大家相聚在美丽的加德满都，共同出席首届珠穆朗玛对话。世界最高峰珠穆朗玛峰是中尼友谊的象征，也是全球生态安全的晴雨表。作为共享珠峰的友好邻邦，中方积极支持尼泊尔政府主办珠穆朗玛对话。以气候变化、山脉和人类的未来为主题，为地区国家乃至全世界就应对气候变化问题凝聚共识、携手行动，搭建新的重要平台。我谨代表中国政府，感谢奥利总理的创新性倡议，感谢尼泊尔政府所做的热情接待，感谢与会各方为推动全球生态治理、促进可持续发展所做的努力，预祝首届珠穆朗玛对话取得圆满成功。
Right Honorable Prime Minister Sharma Oli, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. It is a great pleasure to gather with you in the beautiful city of Kathmandu for the inaugural Chumulangma Dialogue. Mount Chumulangma, the pinnacle of the world, stands as a symbol of China-Nepal friendship and a barometer of global ecological health. China and Nepal share Mount Chumulangma, and China strongly supports the Nepali government in hosting the dialogue under the theme of climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. This event provides a vital new platform for regional and global stakeholders to build consensus and take collective action on climate change. On behalf of the Chinese government, I extend my appreciation to Prime Minister Oli for your visionary initiative, for the Nepali government for the warm hospitality, and to all the participants for your efforts in advancing global ecological governance and sustainable development. And I wish the inaugural dialogue a resounding success.
围绕珠穆朗玛峰深化相关领域交流合作，是中尼友好的重要组成部分。2019年10月。 习近平主席成功对尼泊尔进行历史性国事访问，双方签署20份合作文件，其中包括珠峰保护合作备忘录。2020年12月，习近平主席同尼泊尔时任总统班达里女士共同宣布珠穆朗玛峰8848.86米的新高程。 去年12月，奥利总理成功对中国进行正式访问，两国领导人就中尼关系发展达成新的重要共识。为积极落实奥利总理访华成果， 尼泊尔申请的千城张家自然保护区项目，作为中国出资15亿元人民币设立的昆明生态多样性基金首批项目之一，正在有序落实。中尼在生态多样性保护、喜马拉雅科考和灾害防控等领域的合作日益深入推进。
Deepening cooperation in areas related to Mount Chumulama is a vital part of China-Nepal friendship. In October 2019, President Xi Jinping made a historic visit to Nepal, during which both sides signed 20 cooperation agreements, including the Memorandum of Understanding on Chumulama Protection Cooperation. In December 2020, President Xi Jinping and President Bandari jointly announced Mount Chumulama's new height of 8,848.86 meters. Last December, Prime Minister Oli paid a successful official visit to China, where the leaders of both countries reached new important common understandings on advancing China-Nepal relations. To actively follow through on the outcomes of Prime Minister Oli's visit, the Kanchenjunga Conservation Area Program was listed among the first group of projects supported by the Kunming Biodiversity Fund, which was established by China with a 1.5 billion RMB investment. And steady progress is being made in the funding delivery. Cooperation between China and Nepal in biodiversity conservation, Himalayan scientific research, and disaster prevention and control is making greater headway.
当前，中国正以中国式现代化全面推进强国建设、民族复兴伟业。人与自然和谐共生是中国式现代化的鲜明特点。自5年前习近平主席宣布碳达峰、碳中和目标以来，中国成功实现以每年年均3%的能源消费增速支撑年均6%以上的经济增长，单位 GDP 二氧化碳排放量下降超过35%。截至今年3月底，中国风电、光伏发电装机量历史性超越传统的火电。为深入推进青藏高原生态保护和高质量发展，我们颁布实施《中华人民共和国青藏高原生态保护法》，在三江源搭建天空地一体化生态监测网络，在珠穆朗玛峰建成海拔最高的自动气象观测站，坚持山水林田湖草沙一体化保护，奋力谱写生态优先、绿色发展新篇章。
Through its modernization, China is striving to build itself into a greater country and advancing the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation on all fronts. A defining feature of Chinese modernization is harmony between man and nature. Since President Xi Jinping announced China's carbon peak and carbon neutrality goals 5 years ago, we have managed to support an average annual economic growth rate of over 6%, with an energy consumption growth rate of just 3%, while reducing CO2 emissions per unit of GDP by more than 35%. By the end of March this year, China's installed wind and solar power capacity surpassed that of thermal power for the first time in history. Guided by President Xi Jinping's instruction to further promote ecological protection and high-quality development of the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, China has enacted the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau Ecological Protection Law, established an integrated space, aerial, ground ecological monitoring network in the Sanjiangyuan region that is home to the headwaters of the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, and the Mekong River. And China has built the world's highest automatic meteorological observation station in Mount Chumulama. Through holistic protection of mountains, rivers, forests, farmlands, lakes, grasslands, and deserts, China is writing a new chapter in prioritizing ecological conservation and promoting green development.
中国是世界绿色发展的坚定行动者、重要贡献者。中国的绿色梦想始终承载着世界人民追求美好生活的愿景。 巴黎协定达成10年来，中国在习近平主席生态文明思想指引下，贡献了全球1/4的新增绿色面积，构建起全球最大、发展最快的可再生能源体系，建成全球最大、最完整的新能源产业链。中国是全球最大清洁技术出口国，推动全球风电和光伏发电成本分别下降超过60%和80%。中国已同42国家签署气候变化南南合作谅解备忘录，为120多个发展中国家提供1万余名绿色低碳人才培训名额。2016年以来，中国提供并动员项目资金超过1770亿元人民币，有力支持发展中国家，特别是小岛屿国家和最不发达国家应对气候变化。
China is a steadfast actor and contributor to global green development. China's green dream embodies the aspirations of people worldwide for a better life. In the decade since the adoption of the Paris Agreement, guided by Xi Jinping's thought on ecological civilization, China has contributed 1/4 of the world's newly added area of afforestation. China has established the largest and fastest growing renewable energy system globally and developed the world's largest and most complete new energy industrial chain. As the largest exporter of clean technology, China has driven down the costs of global wind power and photovoltaic power by over 60% and 80% respectively. China has signed Memorandum of Understanding on South-South cooperation on climate change with 42 countries and provided over 10,000 training opportunities for green and low-carbon development programs to more than 120 developing countries. Since 2016, China has provided and mobilized over 177 billion RMB in project funding to support fellow developing countries, particularly small island countries and least developed countries, in their climate response.
女士们、先生们、朋友们，人与自然是生命共同体，山脉与人类未来紧密关联。面对到2100年新都库什、喀拉昆仑、喜马拉雅山系预计将失去1半冰川量的现实危机，面对个别国家再度毁约退勤的单边主义逆流，全球生态治理的严峻性、复杂性、不确定性愈加突出。习近平主席指出，国际社会要以前所未有的雄心和行动，共商应对气候变化挑战之策，共谋人与自然和谐共生之道。本着这一精神，我愿就应对气候变化、共护人类未来分享3点建议。
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, man and nature are a shared community of life, and mountains are closely tied to our future. In the face of the stark reality that the Hindu Kush Karakoram Himalaya mountain range is projected to lose half of its glacier by 2100, and amid a certain country's unilateralist moves to willfully withdraw from treaties and organizations, the urgency, the complexity, and uncertainty of global ecological governance has become increasingly evident. President Xi Jinping stressed that the international community needs to come up with unprecedented ambition and action to discuss ways to tackle climate change and find a path forward for man and nature to live in harmony. In this spirit, I wish to share 3 proposals for addressing climate change and protecting our future.
第一，践行人类命运共同体理念，打造珠穆朗玛峰地区生态安全网。珠穆朗玛峰地区是全世界气候变化最敏感的区域，冰川消融，灾害频发，淡水告急，地区山地国家首当其冲。中国愿继续发挥负责任大国作用，支持地区国家完善监测预报预警体系建设，提升高山地区气候变化适应能力，防范应对地质灾害，加强高山水土资源可持续管理。中国愿继续为激发世界气象组织第3级 区域气候中心网络、昆明、蒙特利尔全球生物多样化框架等平台机制效能贡献力量，推进实施应对气候变化南南合作10百千倡议，为发展中国家办好能力建设培训班。
First, it is important to act on the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind and build an ecological security network in the Mount Chumulama region. The Mount Chumulama region is one of the most climate-sensitive areas in the world, facing glacier retreat, frequent disasters, and freshwater shortages, with mountainous countries in the region bearing the brunt. China will continue to act as a responsible major country, support regional countries in improving their monitoring, forecasting, and early warning systems, enhancing climate change adaptation in high-altitude areas, preventing and coping with geological disasters, and strengthening sustainable management of water and soil resources in mountainous regions. China will continue to help improve the effectiveness of platforms such as the World Meteorological Organization's Third Pole Regional Climate Center Network, or TPRCC, and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and advance the 10-100,000 initiative, which means 10 low-carbon pilot projects, 100 mitigation and adaptation projects, and 1,000 training opportunities for South-South cooperation on climate change. This also includes providing capacity-building workshops for fellow developing countries.
第二，践行共商共建共享的全球治理观，打造生态文明合作新高地。2018年以来，中方已成功主办4届中国西藏环喜马拉雅国际合作论坛，发起林芝倡议，同包括尼泊尔在内的环喜马拉雅地区国家并肩携手，在完善高原生态环境治理、推动绿色发展、深化文明互鉴等方面开展交流合作。中方愿继续积极探索珠穆朗玛对话和环喜马拉雅国际合作论坛对接协同，守护好世界屋脊，保护好人类共同家园。今年10月，中国将在加德满都同尼方共同举办环喜马拉雅地球系统科学国际大会，共商气候变化与人类活动双重影响下的地球系统的应对之策，欢迎各国朋友积极参加。
Second, it is important to act on the global governance philosophy of extensive consultation and joint contribution for shared benefit, to create a new shining example on jointly building an ecological civilization. Since 2018, China has hosted 4 editions of the China-Xizang Trans-Himalaya Forum for International Cooperation and launched the Ningxi Initiative. China worked with Nepal and other countries in the Trans-Himalaya region to advance exchanges and cooperation in improving ecological governance on the plateau, promoting green development and deepening mutual learning among different civilizations. China stands ready to explore synergies between the Chumulama Dialogue and the Trans-Himalaya Forum for International Cooperation to safeguard the roof of the world and protect our shared home. In October this year, China will co-host the Trans-Himalaya Earth System Science International Conference with Nepal in Kathmandu to discuss ways for addressing the dual impacts of climate change and human activities on the Earth system. We welcome the active participation of friends from all countries.
第三，践行真正的多边主义，打造全球气候治理新图景。尽管个别大国热衷单边主义、保护主义、霸权主义，对国际规则和国际秩序造成严重冲击，但中国积极应对气候变化的行动不会放缓，促进国际合作努力不会减弱，推动共建地球生命体的实践不会停歇。应对气候变化是全人类共同的事业，唯有坚定维护联合国气候变化框架条约以及巴黎协定的主渠道地位，秉持共同但有区别的责任原则，各尽所能，团结协作，才能共同应对挑战。发达国家应当履行义务，落实承诺，切实向发展中国家提供资金、技术和能力建设支持。中方坚定支持巴西作为主席国成功举办联合国气候变化辩论大会。中国将于会前宣布 覆盖全经济范围，包括所有温室气体的2035年国家自主贡献目标。
Third, it is important to act on true multilateralism to open up new prospects for global climate governance. Despite a certain major countries' inclination toward unilateralism, protectionism, and hegemonism, which has severely undermined international rules and order, China will not slow down its climate actions. China will not reduce its support for international cooperation, and China will not cease its efforts to build a community of all life on Earth. Tackling climate change is a common cause for all humanity. We must firmly uphold the central role of the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement, adhere to the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, and work together as one. Developed countries must fulfill their obligations and commitments and provide substantial financial, technological, and capacity building support to developing countries. China firmly supports Brazil in hosting the COP30 climate conference in Berlin, and China will announce its 2035 NDCs covering all economic sectors and all greenhouse gases before the conference.
女士们、先生们、朋友们，中国有句古话：“山高人为峰。”尼泊尔有句谚语：“滴水也能装满缸。”让我们携起手来，缔造绿色发展新格局，共同书写人与自然和谐共生的文明新篇章，共同建设清洁、美丽、可持续的世界。
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, as a Chinese proverb goes, no mountain is too high for those who seek its peak. The Nepalese often say, drop by drop is the water pot filled. Let us join hands to foster a new paradigm of green development, co-author a new chapter of harmony between man and nature, and together build a clean, beautiful, and sustainable world.
谢谢大家。
Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for the statement on behalf of Government of the People's Republic of China. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we now have received a video message for the Sagarmatha Sambaad from His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. I now would like to request our technical team to play the video message. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, dear friends, I'm so pleased to send a message of solidarity and support to this first ever Sagarmatha Sambaad. I couldn't agree more with the spirit of this gathering, that your majestic mountains, including Sagarmatha, truly inspire us to think beyond borders and reflect through dialogue and engagement. I have felt that spirit on my visits to Nepal, including most recently when I had the privilege of seeing the glacial valley basins of Mount Everest and the Annapurnas. And I saw firsthand how the rooftops of the world are caving in. Record temperatures have meant record glacier melt. Nepal today is on thin ice, losing close to 1/3 of its ice in just over 30 years. And your glaciers have melted 65% faster in the last decade than in the previous one. Nepal and so many other vulnerable frontline countries did not cause this tragedy, but you are living with the impacts. And we know when glaciers shrink, so do river flows. In the future, major Himalayan rivers like the Indus, the Ganges and Brahmaputra could have massively reduced flows, combined with saltwater intrusion that would decimate deltas. We would see low-lying countries and communities erased forever. Millions of people on the move with fierce competition for water and land, and floods, droughts and landslides accelerating worldwide. That is why last year from Nepal I sent a global message to the world: stop the madness. And that is why you are gathered together focused on Sambad, dialogue. The world has much to learn from Nepal's climate leadership. from your local adaptation plan of action, to pioneering the United Nations early warning systems for all initiative, the extraordinary efforts on reforestation, and pushing to reach your climate goals by 2045. The world must act without delay to keep 1.5 degrees in reach, with the biggest emitters in the lead. By seizing the opportunities of renewable energy and the benefits they bring to communities and economies, by making good on climate finance commitments, including the $1.3 trillion climate finance goal agreed at COP29, by honoring the promise of developed countries to double adaptation finance to at least $40 billion this year, and by delivering serious support to the Loss and Damage Fund to help the most vulnerable. Achieving these goals demands bold cooperation across nations and sectors. The United Nations is your ally in this essential task, and I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we wish to thank His Excellency Secretary General of the United Nations for his thoughtful video message. We fondly recall the official visit to Nepal by Secretary General in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, now I have the honor to humbly request the Right Honorable Prime Minister to officially unveil the Nepal government's NDC 3.0. So to do the honors, I'd like to request Right Honorable Prime Minister to please come up on stage. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the official unveiling of Nepal government's NDC 3.0. And also to officially hand it over to the COP29 President, His Excellency Mr. Mukhtar Babayev, I'd like to kindly request, sir, to please come up on the stage. Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister, for doing the honors. And now I'd like to request Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Chair of the Steering Committee of the Sagarmatha Sambaad 2025, to address this August gathering. Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, esteemed guests, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and namaste. It is both a deep honor and a heartfelt privilege to welcome you to the inaugural edition of Sagarmatha Sambaad. This is Nepal's Global Dialogue Initiative, a platform for thoughtful reflection, for principled engagement, and for addressing the most urgent challenges of our time. Today, the line between local and global has all but vanished. What happens in one corner of the world echoes across the rest. The fire that rages in one land darkens the skies of others. The melting of distant glaciers shifts the rains, floods the fields, and parches the plains far away. The decisions of a few can shape the destiny of many. It is within this deeply interconnected reality that the Sagarmatha Sambaad was born. A space for honest dialogue, for shared wisdom, for collective action. We have named it after Sagarmatha, the highest point on earth. And we hope this Sambad, our dialogue, will rise just as high. High in moral clarity, bold in intellectual courage, steady in our shared vision for a better world. Ladies and gentlemen, today the world stands before towering metaphorical mountains. Challenges loom vast and urgent. There, the recovery from the pandemic is still fragile. The climate crisis is speeding up. In many corners of the world, peace feels more distant than ever. Trust in global institutions is weakening. Inequalities within countries and across borders are growing deeper. Multilateralism, once a guiding light, now sways under heavy storms. And yet, amidst this uncertainty, we hold on to a simple, powerful belief: the power of dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, Nepal is not just a piece of geography. It is the sacred land where wisdom breathes through every stone and stream. Here the spirit of awakening was born. This is the land of Lord Buddha. From this soil, a light emerged, guiding humanity towards peace, compassion, and harmony. It is soil where sages meditated, where seekers found truth, where rishis offered the world a wealth of knowledge that still uplifts the human soul. Nepal has always been a place of seekers, not of conquerors, but of contemplators. Not of battles, but of dialogue. Our tradition is rooted in listening with respect, in speaking with sincerity, and in seeking truth together. Sagarmatha Sambaad is born from that very spirit. It is a gentle revival of our ancient ways, a space where wisdom bows to humility, where many voices come together with reverence, where we look for answers, not with ego, but with empathy. We are reminded of an ancient truth: Vade Vade Jayate Tattvada. Through dialogue, truth shines. Even in moments of deep division, it is not silence or shouting that helps us. It is honest conversation. It is honest listening. It is speaking from the heart. Sagarmatha Sambaad is our humble attempt to carry this sacred legacy forward. Our first theme speaks to our soul: climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. As a Himalayan nation, this is not a distant issue. It is our daily reality. But it is not just ours, it is the world's. Can humanity survive without its mountains? Can we protect the future without protecting these ancient guardians? Mountains may seem far away, but their breath keeps half the world alive. From the Arctic to the Andes, from the Alps to the Himalayas. They are the Earth's water towers, they are our climate poles, and they are in danger. Their fragility is our shared vulnerability. From the lap of Sagarmatha, the world's highest peak, we send this message loud and clear. To protect the mountains is to protect the planet. To protect the mountains is to protect our seas. To protect the mountains is to protect humanity itself. Let this Sambad be not just a dialogue, but a determination. A determination to listen, to act, and to work together towards a gentler, wiser, and more compassionate world. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is the greatest challenge of our time. It touches everything, our planet, our people, our shared prosperity. No nation is untouched. No society is safe. But the heaviest burden falls on those least responsible. The poorest, the most vulnerable, the mountainous and the least developed. Nepal stands among them. We have done little to cause this crisis, yet we face its harshest consequences. Glaciers are melting, rains are uncertain, landslides sweep away homes, floods and droughts come without warning. And still, we stand firm. Our emissions are small, almost negligible, but our contributions are meaningful. Our Himalaya cool the region, nature's own climate stabilizer. Our forests cover nearly half of the land, breathing in carbon, breathing out hope. Our rivers flow from the high snows, quenching the thirst of millions. Our protected areas are sanctuaries guarding the planet's rich biodiversity. Nepal has pledged net zero emission by 2045, 5 years ahead of the global target. We are advancing adaptation plans. We are greening our economy. We are weaving sustainability into our national vision. Yet we cannot do it alone. No country can. Climate change is a global emergency. It calls for a global response. A response anchored in justice, rooted in responsibility, fueled by solidarity. Climate justice must lead the way. Those who pollute the most must do the most. They must support the most vulnerable with finance, with technology, with capacity. And let us not forget the mountains. Too often, they are ignored in global terms, yet they regulate climate. They store water. They recharge the land. They cradle life. When mountains fall, valleys suffer, rivers dry up, crops fail, oceans rise, lives unravel. The Himalaya, our third pole, are warming faster than the global average. Glaciers are vanishing. Glacial lakes are swelling. Millions downstream are at risk. We need a bold, integrated vision. a mountains to oceans approach. We must give mountains the attention they deserve, with special financing, with tailored policies. We must invest in clean energy, grow climate resilient crops, uplift women and youth, and protect those forced to move. Let us strengthen risk assessment, build early warning systems, share data, work together across borders, and most importantly, let us bridge ancient wisdom with modern innovation. This is how we build resilience. This is how we honor the earth. This is how we protect our shared future. Ladies and gentlemen, the mountains inspire us, not because they stand apart, but because they rise above. They offer perspective. They teach us to think beyond ourselves. In that spirit, our dialogue must rise to above narrow interest toward a higher shared purpose. Let us join hands. Let us act with courage and care for a future that is just, for a planet that is sustainable. We need fresh resolve, bold ideas, new investments, and deep cooperation across regions, across the world. A green, resilient, and sustainable future is not a choice. It is the only path forward. Sagarmatha Sambaad is our humble offering, a global platform to listen, to speak, and to understand, a space to build trust, to imagine a world where harmony with nature and equity among people is not a distant dream but a living reality. Together, let us climb towards the summit of resilience, towards the peak of justice, toward a future built on shared hope. We look forward to your wisdom, to your voices, to your vision throughout this Sambad. May our time in Nepal be joyful and inspiring in the land of Sagarmatha, in the land of Buddha. Thank you. Thank you all.
We are deeply grateful to Right Honourable Prime Minister for his insightful address and inspiring vision, ladies and gentlemen. With the address by Right Honourable Prime Minister, now it is time for the photo session of the head of ministerial level delegations with Right Honourable Prime Minister and the chair of the steering committee of Sagarmatha Sambaad. I would now like to request all our delegates, His Excellency Mr. Xiao Jie, Vice Chairman, Standing Committee of the 14th National People's Congress, China, to please come up on stage and join Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to request all our delegates, His Excellency Shri Bhupender Yadav, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, India. Honourable Dr. Arzurana Deuba, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Nepal. Honourable Mr. Ayan Bahadur Shahid Thakuri, Minister for Forest and Environment, Nepal. His Excellency Jem Chiring, Minister for Energy and Natural Resource, Bhutan. His Excellency Mr. Mukhtar Babayev, COP29 President, Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Her Excellency Ms. Sharmeen Soneya Murshid, Advisor to the Ministry of Social Welfare and Ministry of Women and Children Affairs of Bangladesh. His Excellency Abdullah Balala, Assistant Foreign Minister for Energy and Sustainability Affairs of UAE. His Excellency Barons Heyman of ULOC, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State, Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, UK. Thank you. We would like to thank Right Honorable Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli and all our honorable dignitaries and ministers for the official photo session. Ladies and gentlemen, with this photo session, we conclude the opening session of the Sagarmatha Sambaad 2025. May I kindly remind all distinguished delegates that the plenary session will commence at this Mega Malar Hall in half an hour, 30 minutes. That is 11:35. The plenary session will start. Wishing to see many of you in the plenary and the roundtable sessions. We will continue working together for fruitful dialogue, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.